Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Jacobs, equipping us and our relationships to keep moving forward. So come and journey with me, and along the way, stick these tools in your back pocket. In our previous episodes, we've explored how positive emotions expand our thoughts and behaviors and build responses that promote creativity, social connection, personal resources, and resilience. We've also explored how the positive emotion, happiness, is an experience we don't have to wait for, but one we can synthesize and create right now through the practices of gratitude, generosity, and giving. In today's episode, we're going to take a practical approach and look at how an American icon used gratitude to manage times of mental and emotional distress. We'll also look at ways to enhance our experience of this practice. Most people know Dr. Maya Angelou as a poet, novelist, memoirist, essayist, professor, actress, civil rights activist, and spoken word artist. But before Dr. Angelou was known as a great writer, thinker, speaker, and humanitarian, she first made her mark on the world as a dancer. While sharing her gifts of movement around the world at a time which preceded the American Civil Rights Movement, Maya Angelou's son was cared for by his maternal grandmother. Upon returning to the United States to care for her young son, Dr. Angelou recounts in her book, A Letter to My Daughter, that she experienced great fear and uncertainty about how to raise a Black boy in a racially tormented country. And upon considering the task, she experienced a psychological crisis. She sought help by a professional, but quickly deduced the person would not be of help, being unable to identify with her plight. She then sought support from her dance instructor, whose name was Wilkie. Now, before I read a small portion of Dr. Angelou's text, I'd like to reference Section 107 of the Copyright Act and cite fair use for the nonprofit purposes of commentary and teaching. In the chapter entitled Porgy and Bess, Dr. Angelou recounts seeking support from her dance instructor, and she writes this: "I'm telling you, I'm going crazy." Wilkie said, "Here is a yellow pad and here is a ballpoint pen. I want you to write down your blessings." I said, "Wilkie, I don't want to talk about that. I'm telling you, I'm going crazy." He said, "Write down that I said, write down, and think of the millions of people all over the world who cannot hear a choir or a symphony or their babies crying. Write down, I can hear, thank God. Then write down you can see this yellow pad and think of the millions of people around the world who cannot see a waterfall or flowers blooming or their lover's face. Write, I can see, thank God. Then write down that you can read. Think of the millions of people around the world who cannot read the news of the day, or a letter from home, a stop sign on a busy street, or..." I followed Wilkie's orders, and when I reached the last line on the first page of the yellow pad, the agent of madness was routed. That incident took place over 50 years ago. I have written some 25 books, maybe 50 articles, poems, plays, and speeches, all using ballpoint pens and writing on yellow pads. When I decide to write anything, I get caught up in my insecurity despite the prior accolades. I think, uh-oh, now they will know I am a charlatan, that I really cannot write and write really well. I'm almost undone. Then I pull out a new yellow pad, and as I approach the clean page, I think of how blessed I am. The ship of my life may or may not be sailing on calm and amiable seas. The challenging days of my existence may or may not be bright and promising. Stormy or sunny days, glorious or lonely nights, I maintain an attitude of gratitude. If I insist on being pessimistic, there is always tomorrow. Today, I am blessed. Again, that brief excerpt coming from Dr. Maya Angelou's collection of essays in a book entitled Letter to My Daughter in the chapter Porgy and Bess. You know, every time I read this passage, my eyes always land on the sentence where Dr. Angelou writes that after practicing gratitude, quote, The agent of madness was routed. End quote. This is encouraging. Since expressing gratitude is one behavior that we can do right now to shift our emotional state toward a more positive, happy one, following Dr. Angelo's example, I'd like to exhort us to consider keeping a gratitude journal. If putting pen to paper seems a bit outdated and unsustainable, we can choose one of many gratitude apps to help us begin and maintain this practice. The idea is to simply create a habit of expressing thankfulness, because in doing so, we meditate on people, places, things, and events that are good rather than ruminating on circumstances that are not. Remember, shout out to episode 1. Distressing emotions tend to narrow our vision and block us from seeing the majority of the things in our lives that are actually going pretty well. Whereas positive emotions expand our perspective in a way that allows for creativity, problem solving, and the ability to bounce forward. In your gratitude practice, try thinking about positive events. If you need help focusing, you can use pictures, memorabilia, or imagery to reminisce about the positive events you experience. You can also write down 3 good things and reflect on the reasons why they happened. Try writing about a personal achievement and how you overcame obstacles, or recognize the role of others in helping you achieve your goals. You can reflect on and record acts of kindness toward yourself or others. The point is this: all of these tools of gratitude, when practiced consistently, can be effective in shifting your perspective and both enhance and help you savor your experiences of well being and happiness.